Well, it turns out we weren't away from B&M for long, were we? Welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review on the Host Productions. In today's review, I'm taking a look at the latest 3-pack as a part of the B&M exclusive series, Revenge of the Cybermen collector set, featuring 3 Cybermen alongside a Cybermat. This set was originally released as a part of the Forbidden Planet exclusive range way back in 2010, and it has since gone on to be incredibly rare and highly sought after by fans, so this release will no doubt be incredibly popular, and one of which that I recommend tracking down sooner rather than later, as I think it's going to be quite a hard one to come by in the future. So the packaging for the Revenge of the Cybermen collector set is very different from what we had when it was initially released. Now in the B&M 3-pack cardboard box rather than the plastic tube, it actually looks quite nice, although it is a shame about the plastic window being absent. And we have that plastic holding the figures towards the back of the box, making some quality control issues rather difficult to spot, because it basically suffocates and distorts the action figure. And it's got a lovely background as well, which is sadly destroyed when you take the figures out. Completely appreciate and understand why they do this, but at the same time it makes the set overall feel cheap. It doesn't feel like a collector's item. So at the bottom of the box, as always, we have the title of the set being Revenge of the Cybermen 1975. TARDIS graphic present in the bottom corner. This set is from the 4th Doctor era, so this time we have a lovely lighter blue which is used. It really complements the white box outs. And in the bottom corner, the Character Options logo, B&M limited edition sticker, is a part of the 5.5/14cm scale collector series. Above this, the features bubble is rather thin on the ground for this one. And then the diamond design Doctor Who logo in the top corner. The sides of the box are pretty self-explanatory, but again I do love that contrast between the white and the blue. All your company details and barcode are present at the bottom of the box, and the slightly different format of Doctor Who logo at the top. Because all the company details are on the base, this makes the back look rather clean, just some very minimal small print at the bottom, plus your official Doctor Who merch sticker. And then wrapping up the box, we have a little write-up, a story synopsis for Revenge of the Cybermen. And if you've seen my reviews before, you know exactly what I'm going to say next. Give us a picture or two, bulk out the back of the box, make it look more exciting, anything just other than the bulk of text. Even come to think of it, an also available section for the other B&M sets released around this time period. That would feel quite nostalgic. Background is episode specific, which is lovely. It's the Nova Beacon, or should I say, Nova Beacon. Nice idea, it's just a shame that you basically have to destroy it to get the figures out, as instantly it's never going to be the same again. I love this set, I think it's great, honestly one of the best sets that the B&M line has done in quite a while. It's absolutely perfect for those who didn't get the original that was released way back in 2010, but the changes which have been made are also decent too for those that do have the original. Are there still changes that I would have liked to see? Yes, but we'll take a look at those a bit later on. All of the Cybermen are the same sculpt within this set, so I'm basically going to be reviewing all 3 figures at once, as that just makes sense. The first thing to note with all 3 of the Cybermen within this set is the silver, which has been used, has a lovely shiny finish. The light really bounces off it. Frustratingly, from a review side of things, it's also one of the most difficult things to pick up on camera. Here is the original and new version of the standard Cyberman. Hopefully you'll be able to tell that the one on the right looks slightly more subdued compared to this latest version. The original just feels a bit flatter, a bit less exciting, but it's still a lovely action figure. In all honesty, there isn't much in it, but when you see it with your own naked eye, I feel like you'll be able to tell, yes, they've got it right this time. And already, because of that, we're off to a really good start. Starting off with the main torso section, it's silver. That will be an ongoing theme for all. We have these tubes wrapping around the shoulders to the chest unit. As with all of the pipes used on this action figure, I do like the ridged effect on these. As for the main body section, there really isn't much going on here. A few creases, but nothing else. Certainly a few more creases towards this side. We have a few new bits and bobs going on with the chest unit. It looks a bit more accurate to what's seen on screens. It has been sculpted in a clear plastic with the silver highlights added on top, and for some reason this does seem to be a bit more obvious compared to the initial release. The biggest differences across the entirety of this action figure is that rectangular grating in the middle is now a darker silver wash, while on the original this was a matte black, as well as the complementing button down below. But obviously, because this is a silver bloke from head to toe, a giant black rectangle like this is going to stand out quite a lot, which is really annoying, especially because it's inaccurate. The upgraded version looks a lot better, more screen accurate. It also looks a tad like a cheese grater, but what can you do? Towards the side there is a few rectangles and squares, a little bit more circuitry off to the opposite side as well. This hasn't been given any additional paint, which I was going to say it would have been nice to have a wash over the top, but having looked at the story, it seems pretty accurate. There are these 4 black dots towards the bottom. These are seen on screen, they stand out a lot, and there was one thing on the promotional images for this set where I did think, oh lord, why on earth have they done that? And that was the golden highlight. I am relieved to see that this is much more subdued in reality. If anything, it has a lime green tint. It's also present at the bottom of the chest unit within this small circle, but to be honest, having looked at images from the episode, I'm still not entirely convinced that this is accurate, but it's a notable difference, and I'm glad it just doesn't look as bad as the promo pictures. Either way, I didn't consider buying some silver spray paint when I picked up this set in B&M, so that's a relief. The back of the Revenge Cybermen are rather bizarre. Maybe it's an attempt to make them look a bit more alien, I don't know, but they have this sort of hunched, domed back effect. Wires entirely wrapping around this, it almost looks like a spider from Platform 1. This silver dome section in the middle. The same design is also present on either side of the shoulder. There's a bit more creasing, a V-shape in the middle, but nothing else paint-wise. Tubes from the back wrap around to the side of the figure, connecting up with the piece which runs down the leg. This looks rather neat. As for the arms, these continue the shiny silver design, obviously, because it's a Cyberman. Much smoother outfit, it's nothing like the 80s Cybermen that have all the wires and the mesh bits. Instead, there's just the occasional bit of creasing here and there. And the same goes for the back too. To assist the poor bugger that's probably trapped inside this whilst in a BBC studio sweltering their life away, we have these sort of slinky effects on the elbows. It's a very similar design to what's seen on the legs. Textured piping does also run down both of the arms. There's also a little wiggly bit around the elbow. This was of course for practical purposes in the show itself to aid mobility. Tubing has been made of a rather flexible plastic, but it's been nicely affixed to the cyber body. And as a result, I do think it looks neater than the original. You can see here it's just a little bit wobbly at the sides. It dangled down a little bit too where it wasn't completely fixed in place. Also made of a much more flexible plastic. So again, this is a really welcome improvement. The arms come to a rather neat end before leading to the glove. The thing with these Cybermen, yes, it is a human in a suit, and that's what makes them really eerie, but in relation to these specific Cybermen, it is quite literally a man just in a suit filming a TV programme. The illusion's kind of broken a bit. From head to toe sculpting wise, all 3 of these Cybermen are exactly the same, so it doesn't take a genius to work out. The hand sculpts are also exactly the same. For a Cyberman, these are slightly more posed than usual, which is great in the case of the Cyber Leader because he can pull that rather sassy waist-holding pose which he does within the story. Tail-wise, there isn't much going on, but the fingers are rather widely spread. There is a little bit of creasing in the middle of the palm, nothing at all really going on with the back. For the other hand, these fingers are slightly posed, as if this Cyberman wants an accessory to hold. Which leads me on to one of my biggest critiques with this set overall, and it is the lack of accessories which are new. I had a feeling that this set would be a direct reissue of the original set from way back in 2010 down to the Cybermen variants and even the inclusion of the Cybermat accessory. I was really hoping that they would bung in a new accessory like the Cyber Bomb or the control device, just to give those fans who have been there since the very beginning something new as well, in addition to the upgraded paint apps. Since that Dalek from the previous wave had not one but 2 new appendages, I thought it was a fairly reasonable hope. But no, instead the Cyber Leader is just here creepily waving without any control device. Moving down to the lower half of the action figure now, the B&M 2025 one on the left and the original on the right, you can see what the issue is. Parts weren't put in correctly, so the legs somewhat flail outwards. I've seen a lot of the figures like this back in the day. They just bounce back. Bizarrely, one of the positives of this is the originals have a rather casual, awkward stance. It looks like they're a little bit uncomfortable, much like how they were within the TV story. These versions seem more put together. So instantly there is less gaps within the action figure, and it looks better as a result. Again, I'm really pleasantly surprised by this set. I go into the B&M exclusives not expecting the quality of the originals because they always feel cheaper as a default. This set might actually be one of the exceptions. There is very little detail around this part of the action figure, and the same goes for the back, a few creases but nothing else. The waist section may be ever so slightly higher compared to other action figures. As he didn't just fall. He's had an accident.
It's the end. But the moment has been prepared for.
Help. I am in the wrong story. Sculpting wise, there is very little to note with the legs. There's still this lovely shiny silver. And the same for the back as well. We do have that slight suggestion of creasing. A pinched effect running down the back of the thigh. Perhaps it stands out slightly more than the original, but there really isn't much in it. Of course, the tubing also continues all the way down the leg, actually fixed into the sculpt quite neatly. And of course, that ribbed effect makes it stand out quite a lot. As we move down to the knees, the offering here is sort of a condensed slinky effect. Lots of lines. I can't quite decide if there's an inky wash over the top of this or it's just the light. I think a more prominent wash would have been welcome, just to divide up the silver a bit to make the figure visually look more exciting. But this is a very minor critique. Slinky effect on the knee also does a good job of disguising the articulation, so visually it helps the action figure. Not that articulation's a bad thing, of course it's an action figure, it's essential, it's just a convenient thing to disguise it. And of course the tubing runs all the way down to the bottom. Much like around the elbows, on the knee the wiring on the side does go a little bit wobbly. For the lower leg, again, this has very little to offer. It does look more like a trouser though here, especially with those sags and wrinkles towards the bottom. It almost looks slightly like a flared design. On the back there's much less going on. Slight overlap, but not by much. This here is one of the original Cybermen. As you can see, the wire is slightly parting from the rest of the leg, so it wasn't fixed in place as snugly. Gotta say though, this one on the other hand, the B&M version, it looks a lot better. The shoes offer very little in the way of interesting details. Few lines running around the sole, smidge of panelling work towards the top. Would it have been nice to have a slight dirtied wash on the bottom of the legs? Maybe. As if they've been trudging around Wookiee Hall, doubling as Voga. Or indeed, should I say, Voga. It's actually ridiculous how easy it is to replicate the Cybermen voices from that story. They forgot to use voice modulation. The head of this action figure really shows off how strong that shiny silver paint job is. It's an alright sculpt, it nicely represents the Revenge Cyber helmet with a slight circular lip underneath, which isn't so present towards the back. Very Invasion of the Cybermen grooves. This also continues on to the side, getting progressively smaller. Most crucially, the mouth has been given a matte black paint job, so this sets it apart from the rest of the helmet. It gives a bit of depth. This was frustratingly absent from the original, and it looks weird because of that. Make things even better, the eye sockets have also been given a very shimmery darker grey paint job. Even this was missing off the original. We bring the helmet to life and elevate it to a completely different level. Similar compliments also extend to the forehead gun, which has also received a dark grey paint app. Automatically this stands out more. You guessed it, absent from the original. Back of the head sculpt continues the lovely silvery shimmer. This looks great. Favourite detailing, and it was also on the original when I was 10 when this first came out, is the detailing of the back panel, even the screw in the middle holding the actor in place. Honestly, hats off to him, it must have been bloody awful. Cyberman handlebars are quite unique for this release. Again, we have that piping design, protrude from the head quite significantly. Again, they really look the part, they look cool. As my original Forbidden Planet exclusive kindly reminded me, the heads could also come off, which is perfect if you want to recreate Van Statten's museum, while for the 2025 versions, the heads seem much more fixed in place. As a result, the originals did have head articulation. These new ones, they just aren't really moving at all. And of course, the Cyber Leader is the major difference, as we have the matte black paint apps. Obviously, the head sculpt is exactly the same. Thankfully, the eyes and the mouth are still picked out with those darker paint apps, which I really appreciate. Especially love that the forehead gun even has a wash of silver. This really makes it stand out. The original does not have any of these details, and the quality control also wasn't great. As you can see, the black line doesn't actually end where the panel ends, which is really frustrating. This also continues around to the back, as well as onto the handlebars as well, completing the look. To end out this review, we have one last thing to take a look at, and that is the Cybermat. It's nice to see that very much like the Cybermen within this set, the Cybermat has also received a little bit of an upgrade. Sculpt-wise, if you have the original, you know exactly what to expect. The silver which has been used is really shiny, much shinier than the original. The tail is divided into a number of metal plates, getting progressively smaller. Head is raised upwards, about to attack. I think it is slightly easier to see how much shinier the latest Cybermat is compared to the original there on the right. Nose is of course pointed with that small mouth section, and this has been given a golden highlight on the tip. Something of which that you only notice if you're looking downwards at the Cybermat. Also, the most significant difference for this variant is the original had a red tip. The base was also completely silver, while the latest version has a matte black. The undersection of the Cybermat though is roughly the same. It has this lovely sort of darker grey metal finish, slightly shinier to the original, but there's not much in it. Overall, it's really nice that he's been included. needed, especially in the B&M line as well, where accessories are often few and far between. As for the changes, I've got absolutely no idea if they're more accurate or not. So there we have it, that is my review of the Revenge of the Cybermen collector set. I do really like this one. I knew I'd like it anyway because it's nice to see these Cybermen re-released, but I think the upgrades which have been made are worthy changes. This set has something for those that have the original 2010 edition, but also it's really exciting for those who don't. It's a big relief that the gold doesn't stand out as much as it does on the promo images for this set, but also the overall quality control for these three Cybermen is really high. Again, they've been better put together compared to the 2010 editions. And one major critique is the absence of any new accessories. Of course, we've seen some new appendages with the Daleks earlier in the year, and given that this is pretty much an identical re-release of the contents from the initial set, it would have been really nice to have a new accessory just for those who have the earlier edition. Thank you for watching this review. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on the Host Productions for regular reviews of the latest merchandise releases. Have a nice day, and I shall see you all next time.